Hello and welcome back to Film Posers. My name is Huang, and today I am joined by my fellow film poser, Ana, and we have actually just seen a screening of Parallel Mothers, Madre Paralela, by Pedro Almodóvar. Now, this review is going to be in Spanglish. The film is in Spanish. You get English subtitles, at least we did. So it kind of feels right to incorporate that sabor, that Spanglish that we just know and love and know how to do so well. So let's get into it. Parallel Mothers, the newest film by Pedro Almodóvar, is about two unmarried women who have become pregnant by accident and are about to give birth meet in a hospital room. Janice, middle-aged, unrepentant, and happy. Anna, a teenager, remorseful, and frightened. I personally feel, getting right into this review, it's a different style of directing from Almodovar. This is definitely something that's bold yet subtle in its approach. It discusses, of course, motherhood, which we actually feel is a recurring theme in his films, and it's very prominent, especially here. And he also handles trauma and generational trauma in this case, as well as sometimes even grief in some cases, because there's a lot of elements here that come together to form one beautiful piece. I felt Penelope Cruz, she gives one of her best performances of her career. It was very much a standout for her. I don't know, what do you think of Penelope Cruz?
So I thought Penelope Cruz was really fantastic. We also had to give props to her co-star Milena Smith. She also did a great job, and I think both of them had a little bit of chemistry, like in screen.
Yeah, you could definitely tell they bounced well off of each other. They had that, like you said, that really good chemistry where it wasn't forced. It actually felt organic between the two of them. You could see how that they were really in deep with their characters. They really got into their roles and it worked to their favors. I really enjoyed their performances. I
Yeah,
agree. They were fantastic.
yeah, and especially how both of these characters are so different from each other, and they both have different circumstances that happen to them, but at the end of the day, they are drawn to each other. It also, gives a little kick with the title of this movie, Parallel Mothers, how different they are, but at the same time, they're so, in sync with each other.
Yeah, so I remember math class for some reason. And I remember how parallel lines are like straight lines that do not interact at any point. And you kind of see that between the characters until they do intersect at one point. So they never meet, but in the film, that's how it was supposed to be in the beginning. They never interacted with each other. They went about their lives. It's very similar, like you said, with their circumstances. But when they did intersect, which is where that title ends, you saw so many similarities. From it, I said, oh, parallel mothers, parallel lines, because they're both similar, never interact. Como que es lo mismo, se ven lo mismo, pero no se interactúan.
Yeah, especially how, again, you mentioned that this film is also about generational trauma, and the film also has a little spot for other characters, other small roles in the film, but it's important for, the secondary story that the movie has. There's a little bit of, politics on the side.
Oh yeah, politics and historical context were pretty big here, which I wasn't exactly ready for. I didn't exactly watch the trailer for this. I just went in knowing it was Almodovar. My first one was Pain and Glory, Dolor y Gloria. So going into this was definitely interesting. I think you had mentioned to me that they mention a war here and things that happened within the aftermath and during that time that are actually true.
They were talking about how the Civil War affected in those times, and how till this day families are still affected by it, because I'm not going to spoil the territory on
Right.
what happened in the film, but clearly it makes sense by the end. It also makes more sense with the title, and I think it has more of an emotional punch with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it has that emotional gut punch and it finds a way to intersect and interconnect all of those stories that you see throughout the film,
Mhm.
and they all, not gonna spoil it, of course, pero they do se resuelven with a bow, and it very much ties it all together towards the end.
Yeah, it certainly does. And at first, you don't know why is this being mentioned, because again, it is just a secondary thing from the actual story, and they didn't bring it out a lot. But I liked how it was really well tied by the end. Now, talking about stories, I don't know about you, but this movie felt like me like a telenovela slash drama. Every time something happens, I'm like, this couldn't get worse. And it does get worse. And you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? It's
Mhm.
every scene, it's a shocker.
It really is. It definitely uses those telenovela style twists where you kind of see it coming. You kind of feel like, oh, so va a pasar, no va a pasar a la muchacha. Wait, wait, wait. Después llega, and you're like, oh, called it, but also like, no puede ser. Like, I'm shocked. Like, it kind of works in that advantage, and it uses that like melodramatic form of storytelling, of exaggeration to its advantage, I feel. And it also felt, using those elements like cinema de antes, like
Mhm.
you could definitely tell this film was inspired by past cinematic films that use those elements to elevate their story and also add that intensity to the story, or at least that's what its goal was. I never felt it was intense because, again, you could kind of tell where they were going. I guessed a couple of the twists definitely in the theater, and I will say, even though I guessed them, I enjoyed it because I appreciated it for what it was, and I just went along for the ride. But for a lot of people, they might see that as predictable, and then it's like, you could have done something different. I didn't mind personally. I liked what they did with the story. There is something I will critique though a little bit, but story wise, it worked for me. You know, I me encanta el chisme, so of course I'm gonna be like, I'm in for this. I'm here for this.
No, of course. When you said that, it was very predictable. It does play a lot with tropes on film that we already seen before. It's nothing new. However, te encanta el chisme, and there's a lot of tea in this film, and you're like, oh my God, no puede ser lo que está pasando. So you
Mhm.
just get synced with it, you know? You're like, what's gonna happen next? Like, I already know, pero quiero ver qué va a pasar.
You're like, I can't wait to see how this turns out. No, y también there are some things done that are like, you see and you're like, that is so absurd. What the hell are you doing? And then you see what the payoff was meant to be, and you're like, oh, see, I wouldn't have done that, but keep going. I want to see how this unfolds. Like, I'm kind of into this. Like, ¿qué va a pasar? And then you keep going, and it goes, and it's like escalating and escalating to supposedly a crescendo.
Yeah, and when you're in that peak of the film, it just slowly goes down. And again, like we said, it just ties up really well. And you just sit down in the theater thinking about it and thinking about the second story that comes up. It feels real, and it
Yeah,
felt emotional, and it's very thought provoking.
absolutely. And I definitely feel more invested in the second story than the first story. The first story was good. I enjoyed it. But the second one, I was kind of interested more of knowing what's happening. And one of the things we want to talk about, we just mentioned two stories.
Yeah.
The way this film handles time is quite interesting. Notice we didn't say pacing. I thought the pacing was fine. But we had talked to the fellow critic of ours, and we were talking about how, with this film, how this film organizes time, how it explains everything. Funciona y no funciona. It works when it wants to, in the sense that if you miss a certain scene, te pierdes todo. Like you really have to be paying attention, pero la cosa es completa. You have to watch the whole thing and understand everything. Because if you look away once, you miss an important scene, then you're gonna be like, wait, what happened? Wait. And you kind of feel like you have to go back. So in that aspect, I think Parallel Mothers dropped the ball a bit because I think it tries to fit so much content-wise and story-wise, and you need it. It's like, es como si alguien te está contando un cuento, pero tienes como 5 a 10 minutos para llegar de punto A a punto B.
Yeah.
Y está como que déjame incluirte todo lo que tienes que saber, todo lo que tienes que entender para que puedas dar preguntas después. Like it's your friend rushing you through that quick story. And I only felt rushed towards the end because it was like, oh wait, I gotta get to the ending. And let me tie this with here, and llegamos. Es el final del cuento. Fin. Ahí está el title. Fin.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, the sense of time here, it felt that it needed more tweaking because for me, I knew where the time was when I saw the child growing up. Per se, the film doesn't say exactly the time they're spending together or the situation or anything else. Now, the second story, it felt that it was a bit rushed, like, oh yeah, I forgot there was a second story and we need to incorporate this. I really like how it was like well tied up. However, it felt that it was forgotten for a moment.
Yes, especially since it's mentioned at the beginning and you see it for the first couple of minutes, like, oh, this is the journey we're going on. Cool. And then it takes a completely different route. And it's like you said, it then remembers like, oh, right, we had this storyline to continue talking about. So in that case, it felt a little messy. But I noticed that time jump is very much on Almodóvar style. It happened in Dolor y Gloria, where there were parts where I'm like, okay, past, present, middle, past, present. Like he has those jumps, and you very much have to be able to follow along. In the sense that if you're a casual viewer, you've never seen an Almodóvar film, I don't know if this would be the first one I'd see. But it is a film I think you could see that it's enjoyable.
I feel that this is one of those like easy digestible films of Almodóvar.
Yeah.
For a general audience, I think will enjoy this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's more, I wouldn't go mainstream, but like you said, it has a wider appeal than like an art house or fine art style. It's still there. You can still see those strokes of like the art house, the independent style film, but a lot more people could see this and enjoy it and understand it. Definitely agree there.
Yeah, it's very accessible.
Absolutely. Speaking of accessibility, Parallel Mothers, if you do not know, if you live in Puerto Rico, on December 16th, it will be available in fine arts theaters for you to go, buy your tickets, and have your vaccination card ready so you can show at the theater. Very important. And for our friends who are watching this video who want to see this in the United States, it's supposed to have a limited release in the United States on December 24th, according to IMDb. So check your local listings. Overall, I think I'd say we could recommend this film, definitely, for audiences, especially fans of Pedro Amodóvar.
Certainly, I agree with you.
Yeah, Parallel Mothers, a wonderful story about finding out where we've come from, where we're going, and the journey that we have to take to get there. It is a beautiful story. It is worth checking out, especially for Penelope Cruz and Milena Smit's performances. Yeah. That's our consensus for Parallel Mothers. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, you can hit the like button, comment down below, share our video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know what you think. Again, thank you for watching, and remember, we're all film posers. Bye.
Bye.